Hello and welcome back, and in this video we're going to be creating another variation of FAB menu and our FAB button, and in this case we're going to animate them. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to create a new view. So I have this file where we're going to use our FAB menu, but right underneath I'm going to create a new view, and let's go ahead and call this FAB button view. Okay, so first thing we need is basically a state property to keep track of whether the button is open or the menu is open or not. So we're going to create a state variable. I think is FAB open is better. Yeah. Okay, and let's set it to false. All right, now for the body property, what we're going to do is first thing we're going to do is we're going to wrap the view inside a navigation stack. All right, so navigation stack is going to help us create that navigation bar, and we're going to set our title and stuff like that inside the navigation stack. Okay, next we're going to create a ZStack, so we can have basically not ZStack examples but our regular ZStack, so we can have all the content basically laid out in a Z axis. So basically all the content that we are putting, all the buttons that we are putting, they are sitting on the top of each other. Okay, next what we're going to do is basically we also want to make sure that we have an alignment set up for these, and the way we're going to basically set the alignment is going to be by setting this parameter alignment. Okay, and we're going to say the alignment is going to be bottom. Okay, now next thing we're going to do is basically we're going to create a rectangle. Okay, and this rectangle is going to have a foreground style color dot orange. Okay, let's go ahead and call this FAB button view. Okay, and what we're going to see is basically this orange gradient being displayed, or orange gradient rectangle being displayed on the screen. We're going to ignore the safe area, so we're just going to say ignore safe area modifier. We're going to attach it to the rectangle, and our rectangle is basically going to cover the entire screen, making it as a background. Okay, now we're going to create our main button. So it's going to be a button which is going to take an action, and it's going to have a label. The action it's going to perform is going to be basically open FAB, or is FAB open dot toggle. So basically it's going to toggle this value between true and false. Okay, so that's what it's going to change, and then we're going to have an image for the label, and this is going to come from a system image, so SF symbol image, and the image that we're going to use is going to be called plus.circle.fill. Let's set its font, and we're going to use size modifier for the font, or size method for the font, and set it to 70 points. So our menu, basically our button is big enough to appear on the screen. All right, we're going to set the foreground style to be indigo dot gradient. So we're going to change the color to indigo, and this is what it's going to look like. All right, next thing we're going to do is we are going to apply a rotation effect on this. So whenever the button is clicked and the menu is open, this button can turn into a cross, basically a close button, and tapping on the close will turn it back into a plus button. Okay, so we can easily do this by applying a rotation effect, which takes an angle in degrees. So we're going to use degrees, and we're going to basically toggle the rotation based on the state of is fab open. Okay, so we're going to say is fab open. If it is true, then rotate the button. Let's try 45 degrees, and then I'm going to change it to 135, and I'll show you why. Okay, so if the fab is open, rotate the button by 45 degrees, otherwise keep it at 0. So at this point the fab is closed, so we are seeing a plus. As soon as the fab is open, as soon as you tap the button, basically button is toggling, is open, that means it's turning into a cross. Okay, now we're gonna basically animate this. So just put animation modifier, and we are going to apply a spring modifier, spring animation, with damping fraction of 0.6, okay, or 0.5. The value that we're going to animate over is going to be is fab open. All right, now let's see this in effect. So I'm going to tap on it, and as you can see, the button is basically turning into a cross. Okay, now you can change the direction where it's turning, okay, by just putting a negative value. All right, now notice that our button is turning like, very slightly, okay, and the rotation is basically only 45 degrees. I'm going to change it to 135 because that gives button a full rotation and comes to a closed state. So to me, this looks a little bit more nice. So I'm going to keep it this way because our rest of the buttons are going to open up, slide up from here. So by the time they are sliding up, this button animation is also going to be done. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at 135. All right, hope that is clear. Let's go ahead and move on. So next we're going to need basically a group of buttons that we're going to open as an option. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a group. And inside this group, we're gonna create a button, and this button is basically gonna have we're just not gonna add any action at this point. You can feel free to add an action if you like. For the label, I'm gonna basically put an image, okay, and the image is going to be a system image, and the name is going to be link.circle.fill. All right, and as you can see, the image actually appears right here. So let's go ahead and give it a size. So we're going to give it a, let's give it a font and a foreground color. So I'm going to copy both of these. The font is going to be 50 points. And the foreground color, let's change it into red. Okay, now as you can see, the button is sort of like, overlapping over the other button. So what we can do is we can actually first of all set the offset for this guy, and we can say offset the offset on the y direction. When the fab is open, then keep it at -80. Otherwise, keep it at -10. So it's right in the center of the button. Okay. Then we're gonna basically let's put animation, because I want to keep this button visible while we put the animation, so I can show you both states. So let's put the animation, and this one is gonna be ease in out animation over is fab open value. So let's go ahead and try this. So as you can see, the button is moving up its value. I'm clicking on the side because if I click here, the other button takes the event. Okay, so I'm gonna click here and our button is moving up. Now what we can do is because this button is always visible, we can also animate the fading of the button. Basically fade in and out using opacity. So we're going to say opacity is going to be controlled when the fab is open. Set the opacity 1.0, otherwise set it to 0. Okay, so basically completely hide the button so it's not taking any of the events, but when it's open it actually opens up right at the top. So as you can see, it's sort of like, you know, coming out of the button. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a copy of this button and we're gonna create our next button. Next button is gonna be a soccer ball image. So there we go, a soccer ball image. And the only thing that we're gonna change is gonna be this position of the fab. So that's one thing that we're gonna change. So the value is gonna be 140 when the fab is open. Now we want to start to basically display this where our previous button ends. So we're gonna say previous button actually will show up at 80. So our button is gonna be offset at 90. Okay, and then we are gonna basically yeah, let's go ahead and check it out right now. Okay, so I'm gonna click on it, and as you can see, both buttons basically sort of appear. Okay, and let's go ahead and change this to 60 because I want button to come out. Okay, yeah, from there. Okay, now next thing what we're going to do is we're going to add a delay onto our animation so buttons appear to come out one after another. Okay, so we're going to add a delay of 0.2 seconds. Okay, so when the menu opens up, it's actually basically opening it up and the button appears a little bit later. So I'm going to change it to 0.1 because that'll make it a little bit nice. Let's also change the color for this other button, and we're going to change it to teal. Okay, so that's going to make it look a little bit different. It's not a good color on this background. Let's go ahead and change this to a black color and let's put a gradient on it. There we go. Okay, so that's better. Now our menu is looking much better. Okay, so what we have is basically these buttons that are showing up and their states are being toggled. Now third button that we're gonna have is gonna be of icon gear circle fill. So let me copy that one. All right, and the color, let's change the color to purple, and we're gonna basically move it from 130. Okay, so 130 is gonna be when the button is closed or fab is closed, and 200 for the offset. By the way, I've checked all these offsets, that's why I'm coming up with these. You can try it out by just removing this, and you're gonna know where your button is going to appear basically. Okay, so I'm gonna put it back on and I'm gonna add a delay of 0.2 seconds. So let's go ahead and see. So as you can see now, the button is basically, all the buttons are flying out. Okay, so now there's one problem. I don't know if you noticed, but because all these buttons come after our main fab button, which is this guy right here, they actually appear to disappear on the top. Okay, so let's go ahead and change that by putting this button at the end. Okay, so this button sits on the top of this group. All right, so that's a little bit better. Okay, all right, so this is how basically you can create a this cool fab animation just by adding simple animations, simple delays, and just playing around with the offset values and stuff. So this is another variation. Now let me show you what you can do with it. Let's say if you have, so I'm gonna basically remove these two because I want to keep it reusable, and I'm gonna remove this as well. Okay, and I'm gonna come back here and I'm going to use this button now. So let's go ahead and create an array with DevTechie courses that you can watch whenever you want on devtechie.com. And we're going to create a list of these courses. So let's go ahead and create a ZStack and a list and put the fab menu right underneath. And then we're gonna have an alignment of bottom. Okay, and what we're gonna do is, so we have our group, and this is our ZStack, and the reason it's taking the entire space because of this navigation stack. So we're going to remove the navigation stack from here, and we're going to put the navigation stack right here where our main view is. Okay, so navigation stack, and we're also going to give this navigation stack a title. Okay, and now we're gonna basically put it in. Yeah, so there you have it. You've got your list of courses that are being displayed, and you have a working fab. Now, as you can see, fab is slightly not very visible. Okay, so let's go ahead and handle this. All right, so we can easily change that by adding basically a background to our view. So let's go ahead and get started with the background setup. So first thing we're gonna do is we can set the alignment for ZStack as the bottom. Okay, and then we are going to create a capsule. Now this is going to be a shape, so as soon as we create the capsule, it's going to take over most of the space. So let's go ahead and first set the foreground color as black dot gradient, and also frame with width of 80 points, and height we're going to basically bind it to basically the state of is fab open. So if the fab is open, then we want to basically set the height as 265. If the fab is not open, that means it's closed, we're going to set it to 80 points. Okay, so it's going to basically surround the button. All right, so if you look at this, this is what we get right now. Okay, and then we can actually animate this by putting a spring animation, and let's put damping fraction of 0.8 for this, and is fab open is the property that we're gonna observe. Okay, so let's go ahead and try this out, and as you can see now we have our menu, and not only we have our menu, basically these are clickable buttons, but we can easily visualize them, and as soon as we close we can actually interact with our background view, we can interact with our buttons on the fab, and we can nicely animate and close the menu. Okay, now it depends upon what kind of color you choose. You can choose a different color, or maybe different material, but this is how you can actually create an animated fab using some simple constructs in SwiftUI. Okay, so this is it for this video. Thanks again for watching.